Well, good morning. Here it is, October 9. We're in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. In case you don't know, you've never seen this channel. Did I say October 9th? It is October 9th. Did I say 9:03? Because it's 9:03 a.m. Did I say it's fall? Did I have to? Does that look like a balloon? It does. I thought we'll just see what the weather is like here. Oh yeah, they're doing a. I would show that to you, but I can't show the camera. It's pretty cool there. Looks like they're collapsing a balloon. They fly these in the morning every morning, pretty much every morning. I think until it's unless it's really cold. Okay. I have to read traffic carefully here. So things are even getting prettier down here in the valley. I think we've peaked up in the mountains, but I mean at least the northern mountains of Colorado and the southern mountains of Wyoming, which probably means everything north of us. But then maybe not, you know. Sometimes it doesn't mean that. But the sun willing, the weather willing, and maybe without some bugs. Well, that's interesting. Here's a hay truck that he pulled over. He was actually in front of me coming from Craig this morning. You didn't see him, but he was on the side of the road just above me a second ago. So I got to get out here. So we are heading basically due south at this point, coming out of Steamboat. You think you'd be heading east because we're heading toward the mountains, but we're actually paralleling the I'm going to call it the Gore Range, but it might also be considered the Rabbit Ears Range. And I don't know. I mean, I guess you need to look at a map. The old timers have that stuff all figured out. Let's hope. Looks like the wind has got a lot of these trees over here too. It is getting pretty cold. We're supposed to get snow this week down in the valley, which it's going to happen. I have a repair to do on this car though, and thanks to Joe Biden, my garage is invisible. Well, the floor is visible, but the walls are invisible. Thank you, Joe Biden, for fucking up, intentionally, by the way, not unintentionally, fucking up our economy so bad that no bill. Of course, the globalists don't want us using their materials, right? These dirty, rotten, billionaire, stupid morons. Have I told you what I felt about the globalists that are trying to push this bullshit on us? I haven't told you. No. I'm in a state of unlike, I guess you could say, about that. I'm not giving this video a huge chance, but what the hell? It's worth it. It's worth a shot. I have been surprised what this camera will just pick up without me messing with it. It typically does great. It typically does better than I think, you know. So I can look down south and see snow on the flat tops. But that's fresh snow, by the way. See just a couple little spots there. And that's kind of indicative of all the high mountains. But the high mountains have really got quite a bit of snow on them, and I have filmed that last week. Kind of a weird repair thing going on with this car. How did this even start? Let me think about this. We do the start then. No, it was a tire, I think. I replaced a tire. I believe that's how it started. That had gotten torn up pretty bad because of a bad alignment, and of no fault of people that did the alignment. And I think I talked about it before. I'm actually doing the alignments on these cars myself by eye, and on this car, these cars. Actually, I could say these cars, but this car in particular, I was inspecting the undercarriage as I was, changing that tire, and I noticed that my CV joint boot, and a CV joint is a drive shaft. I think it's considered a constant velocity. I think that's what the CV is for. But it connects from the differential, the front end of your car, to the axle. And it has they're quite cool little axles. They really, they transmit power, and they really can put up with extreme angles. Shocking how, I'm okay, maybe shocking is the wrong word. Anyway, so I see on the passenger side, I got a rip in the boot. There's a boot on either side of the CV joint where the linkage is being protected and is holding the grease in so that the linkage is always lubricated. It's a cool design. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll get a new boot or whatever. Eventually I thought, well, I could get a new boot, but it's going to cost me $50 for a boot that I can put on without uninstalling the CV joint, which is what I would like. But I also have to put grease in it. It would be a real pain in the ass. I have to glue it on, and I realized that by the time I was done getting everything I needed, it would be about $80 probably for parts, when I could just go ahead and get 2 brand new CV joints for $150. So I opted to do that. Got my CV joints. And in the meantime, as I did this, I was patching the CV joint boot up with some cloth. I was wrapping. What was I using? Oh yeah, I had some rubber bandage, some cool rubber stretchy bandage. I think that probably you use on horses or cows. But real thin and real stretchy. I wrapped a few turns of that around this boot where it was ripped, hold everything together, and then wrap some cloth around it, like an old t-shirt, stretchy, thin fabric. And that held pretty good. But I was out in an area north of Craig, where the old town of 4 Mile is. Actually, it's closer to Bags than Craig, but where an old mine was, picking some samples up. So I gathered my samples, and I drove back, and the road that I was driving on had a lot of sagebrush in it, real tall rabbit brush and sagebrush. And I put it in 4-wheel drive to get over this sandy area. I don't know that I needed to, but I just had force of habit. I ended up, so I got on the road, I had this bad vibration. I thought, well, that's weird. I stopped, I took it out of 4-wheel drive, but I could never really get rid of the vibration. It loosened up a little bit, but I couldn't get rid of it. Now, this was before I changed that CV joint. Well, I drove home 40 miles of this bad vibration, really bad vibration. And I stopped in town, and when I stopped, I visited for some people for a few minutes, got back in the car and drove home, and the vibration was gone. And I'm thinking, well, that's weird. You know, that definitely, intermittent vibration, that's weird. So I finally realized that it was my passenger side CV joint that was causing this vibration. And that was fine because I had CV joint on the way. Replaced the CV joint, got my alignment, my alignment redone. You have to redo your alignment when you do anything to the front end. Went out and drove it, put it in 4-wheel drive, and it still had a vibration. It wasn't nearly as bad as the bad vibration, but it was still there. And I realized that I'm not going to be able to drive this car in the winter at highway speeds with that vibration. I've got to find it. And so, because the driver's side CV joint looked really good, I didn't mess with it at the time. I thought, well, what could it be? It seems like, well, and I thought about it, talked to my brother-in-law a little bit about it, and decided I needed to change my front drive shaft, change the U-joints in that. So I did that, and that became a hassle, a very annoying job. I ended up having to weld my C-clips back onto my flange yoke. I actually messed the flange yoke up so badly that I ordered a new one from eBay. That was the best place to get it. The one I got wasn't right, so I had to send it back. So I was forced with, well, I fix what I have, use what I have, or I don't drive this car. Because you can't drive this car without a front drive shaft. Your transfer case will have no fluid in it unless you stab the yoke into the drive shaft and just hope it doesn't spin itself out. Yeah, you can't do it. So I carefully put it back together. I think I destroyed one of the U-joints that I had bought. I had to buy more U-joints. This is in a period over a month that this has been going on. So I put that in, I got it going, took it out and drove it, put it in 4-wheel drive, vibration still there. All right, next week I will, and this was a few weeks ago, next week I will replace the driver's side CV joint because that's pretty much all that's left that could be causing this vibration. And at the time I'm mulling through all the things that could be creating this vibration, including, let's say, a chipped tooth on a differential, maybe a transfer case or like a chipped tooth somewhere. But it didn't make sense to me because I'm getting an actual vibration I can feel on the floorboards. I mean, this is something that's out of balance. And a chipped tooth could create noise, but I don't think it's going to cause a huge out of balance unless you've lost half of your gear or something. And at that point, obviously, you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, that piece is ruined. So next week, which was last week, I changed I changed the driver's side CV joint out. Very easy job. It took probably an hour to do it, and I was taking my time, so it went really well. But it's getting colder. Keep in mind, I'm doing this work later in the day. In my invisible garage, yeah, which I'm not happy about, my invisible garage. I do like the floor, though. Anyway, I put the driver's side CV joint in. I get it all put together, get my alignment set up, go drive it, put it in four-wheel drive, and I still have that vibration. It's not super strong. It's not as strong as it was the first time I encountered it. But it's strong enough that I cannot drive this car at highway speeds with that vibration. I'll tear it up. It can't be done. And I'm scratching my head and I'm going, what in the hell could it have been? Well, the bad vibration was the old CV joint. It was bad. I think I've got this figured out now. So I'm looking around on the internet for anything about Vitaras and trackers, because this is a Suzuki Vitara. It's a Chevrolet tracker, Suzuki Vitara, same thing. And my search terms are new CV joint, new drive shaft, front drive shaft, right? But still vibration, whatever, something along those lines. I had not searched with those search terms before. And that's important, by the way. So I finally, after doing a few different searches, uncovered an interesting blog post on, I think it was on ZukiWorld.com. And there were people talking about the same situation. They have this weird vibration they can't get rid of. They've changed out their CV joints and their front drive shaft, and it's still got a vibration. That's me. That's what's going on. So what I found out was that the model year for this car, and I don't know how far it extends either way, but it does extend later and earlier. There was call it a defect in the front differential that affects the passenger side CV joint. And what it is apparently there's not even really a bearing in there. Or if there's a bearing, the bearing does not support the drive shaft. It does not support the CV shaft. It plugs into the differential, right? But where it plugs in, there's obviously no support. Well, from the bulletin, from what the blog. Well, the blog entry and the comments shifted me over to a Suzuki bulletin. And I read that bulletin, and they said, well, there's a problem that once your oil seal on that side of your differential goes, and they didn't phrase it the way that I'm phrasing it, but this is the way it works. The oil seal on the passenger side of that differential is the only thing that holds that CV joint in balance. And it's an oil seal. It's not a support. So when your CV joint is good, apparently you don't have this issue. That makes sense to me, but when your CV joint gets bad, then you can have this issue. Well, my CV joint, the passenger side CV joint, went bad real quick. It was loose, but when it did this big vibration thing all the way back from 4 Mile, the old town of 4 Mile, to Craig, I'm quite sure I destroyed that oil seal. It definitely wallowed it out, because it was an old CV joint that probably did get pushed out of the way, or pushed out of balance by high sagebrush. You got to watch that sagebrush. It does nasty things to the undercarriage of your car. Anyway, you would think it would, but it does. Anyway, so I think that created the problem for me, but the problem was there and it was going to happen. So that created the problem for me. Then I didn't know what the problem was. I just went for the most obvious things until I ran out of obvious things. Because the differential should not cause the kind of vibration that makes your floorboard shake. That, if you do that, your differential is basically ruined. Or if your transfer case is doing that, you know, you have huge problems. But that made no sense in my case. But once I read that bulletin, that made sense to me. It's like, I get it. So once that oil seal gets wallowed a little bit, then that CV joint can run out of balance. So what happened was I put a new good CV joint in the passenger side, but because the oil seal had been wallowed out by the last CV joint, this is what I expect, or I would imagine has happened, that even the new CV joint's going to vibrate some because it's not being held by that oil seal. But it's not a strong vibration, but I can tell it won't be good. That was finally, I think I diagnosed it. So now my issue, I got some little bugs up there. See if I can get rid of them. They're not moving. I'll stop down here in a second and clean the window again. I'm surprised these little bugs can survive. Anyway, to finish my story, so I found out that Suzuki makes a part. They actually make, I think they make two parts. It may just be one part, but it's a plastic, not nylon, PTFE. It's a PTFE seal, or not a seal, but a support that you have to pull the CV joint out, clean the area up really good, and then you RTV this little support in the end of your differential, and then you replace it with either a new oil seal, a different oil seal. I know the part has been changed, or maybe it's the same oil seal. I really don't know that for sure. But I bought both of those parts. I could find the little plastic part on eBay for $60. I thought that was kind of expensive. But I did find a worldwide parts site based in Dubai, and I got a better price on that seal. I was able to buy the support, that replacement part I need, and a couple of seals for the differential, just in case, you know, I had a question about the part numbers, so I bought a couple seals, and I got that and shipping for less than $60. So the people that are selling that seal on eBay can kiss my ass. However, over the weekend, Hamas basically declared war on Israel. We probably have Joe Bidenomics to thank for that. Rotten garbage. Anyway, and so I'm thinking, I wonder how long it's going to be before I even get that part. But I do need it. Yes, I know I'm selfishly thinking of myself talking about a war where people have died. And I feel terrible about that. I'm just saying it's a bit ironic that I happen to have been needing a shipment coming out of Dubai, and I'm just saying, you know, I mean, it's in the area where I don't know whether they're going to be slowed down shipping wise or not because of the war. It's one of those practical things about when a war happens, you know, it's a bad thing, obviously. So I'm going to come up here. This is a typical spot that this is like restroom spot up here in the summer. I actually haven't stopped here yet this year, but I'm not going to really stop for that. But I'll get in the shade so I can clean my window and see what's going on. I'm going to go clean that window real fast. Just leave the car running. Anyway, so my parts are coming. So in a week or two, hopefully I can finish fixing this problem. Three. Okay. All right. Oh, by the way, here's a shot of rabbit ears there up on the horizon. One of those little rocks actually looks like a rabbit. Sort of looking west with a tall ear, kind of like being blown back in the wind. I mean, I see that. Whether anyone else sees that, I don't know. Looks like I got a bit of a streak in the window now. I'm scared to try to fix it, but oh man, what the hell? Let's try it. You know, these insects, I mean, they're little spots on the window, but they're incredibly amazing. They're up here, it's around freezing or below freezing up here today. And these insects are flying around like they don't care. And they're tiny. It's pretty cool. In Craig, this late summer, we have had this infestation of these little bugs. I think they're called seed bugs or something. They're like a little box elder bug. They kind of look like that. They're little tiny bugs. And they fly. They look like a little beetle. They are so small they can get right into all of my windows. I built my house in 2007, and I put in reasonably high quality Anderson windows in my house. Oh, poor creature. Damn it. That deer got it. Anyway, in spite of putting high quality windows in my house, and my house is tight. It's a well-built house. I did a good job on it. These windows are like invisible to these little bugs. They get right through them. And I will deal with that next year. All right. Here we are getting off of 40, getting onto Highway 14. I'm pretty sure this is 14. Now I'm going to Fraser this morning. This adds 7 miles to my total trip if I go this way. But I don't have to drive Highway 40 between here and Kremling, and I do not like that section of road at all. Well, let's see what this road looks like. And if you remember in the winter, that cabin right there was completely buried in snow. I think we could see the top of the roof. You know, that was it. Oh, yeah, this car. Anyway, I think I finished my story. So while I'm in two-wheel drive, there's no real pressure on that front drivetrain. Although that CV joint is still turning, it's behaving quite well. I do think that I feel a real minute vibration, though, and that would stand to reason that there would be one there. But I think it's pretty minor. I don't think it's going to increase too much. I hope, anyway. And if it does, I have another car I can drive my route. You know, which is great. Nice to have a backup. But we'll see. I was losing hope that I was going to find the issue. But I think I found the issue. Of course, there's going to be that moment when I put all this, if I get it, when I put it all in, and hopefully that'll go, put it all together, readjust everything, make sure it's all good, and go test it, and it's either a pass or a fail, you know. If I still have a vibration at that point, I might hand it off to a professional mechanic and let them diagnose it. But I have improved it a lot this summer since I've taken over doing the alignment on this car. My tires look beautiful. They're wearing the way they should. The steering is wonderful. So I'm, you know, but I mean, in this situation, I have got to put the time in to making this car work properly, because it travels a lot of miles every week, and depending on the time of the year, they're in pretty treacherous conditions. And you know what I mean. If you've seen any of my videos, you've seen me on this road, when this road is like up in the Arctic. I mean, just a blizzard going on here, and the road barely visible, and everything extremely slick. But I absolutely need, well, for my level of comfort, right, for what I'm used to, how I'm used to driving, I absolutely need four-wheel drive. I think I need it regardless. I mean, without it, going up a pass, this car, I can spin it out. I mean, when I say spin out, the tires will spin. I'm not swerving or anything, but it will lose traction. I probably should have put that or said that. It will lose traction in two-wheel drive. And I mean, that stands to reason. Running a tire on a slippery surface, you don't need all that much horsepower to make it break traction. Yeah. Oh yeah, these willows they turn really cool colors in the fall and in the spring. They get sort of a fluorescent green kind of color in the spring. And in the fall they just have these, they're just pretty. They're just all these shades of red and maroon, brown. It's like a fire going on up there on the hill. some global boiling going on, maybe. I would bet that that's a controlled burn. We haven't had storms here. If that isn't a controlled burn, then it's probably something caused by a hunter, because the hunters are up in the hills right now. That would be unfortunate. You know, the only people that can start a fire and get away with it in our country now are people that work for the Forest Service. I don't know if you heard about this, but there was a woman that started a horrible fire on the Front Range. When I say horrible, it destroyed people's houses. And I think it was intentional. I believe it was intentional, or it was because she did sloppy work or something. It wasn't a good thing. It wasn't like a great thing that got out of control. It was a bad thing. Like she may have actually wanted to start it. I don't remember the details of it. That's just my memory of it, so I could be wrong. But she, I think, got promoted in the Forest Service. But this hunter, if there's a hunter up there, let's say a hunter started that fire, assuming that that's actually an accident, that hunter's probably going to be in trouble. And what's the anti-gun people want to take his weapons away from him, if that's the case? Or her. If it be a her or be a he. Now, maybe if it's like a they there, then they won't get in trouble, because that's where our society, that's where it's going right now. But if you're a regular conservative, you are considered a terrorist, I guess, by the FBI. I have a feeling that the majority of the FBI agents in this country think that's a bunch of bullshit. And they probably do not like what the FBI is doing. There are probably, because it takes all kinds. I'm sure there are a certain amount of FBI agents that are woke and down with the program, you know. They're all in on it. I like this tree right here. It's like it's a bristlecone pine. It's just sort of a lone tree. There are a couple of little trees with it. Bob Ross would have put another tree or two with it, but I think there were some smaller trees around it. Yeah, we're past it here. Look at that. That's the grove of aspens. The leaves are completely gone. You may saw that as we were coming around the corner over on the right. But on the left, it's the same thing. The leaves are mostly gone. So here in North Park, we may as well stick a fork in it and call it done, because winter has come. Or maybe I should say fall has come to North Park. But later on this week, we're going to be getting snow. That's why I kind of hope that I get that part. I hope that I'm not, that, you know, this shipment isn't delayed because of what's going on in Israel. I'm not really sure about that, but apparently Biden gave Iran, what was it, $6 billion or something, but that was only if they would use it for peaceful things or some bullshit like that. But apparently, from what just a quick peruse of what people are posting, apparently Iran said, screw you guys, we're going to spin it how we want. Which of course they're going to. Who in their right mind would think anything differently? No one. Because the people that did that, that gave them that money, are not in their right mind. No. Now, I talked to my nephew about, we talk about these philosophical kinds of things, about God and about war and about the weirdness of the world. And I also, Timcast, IRL, they really have been getting, Timcast, IRL, I guess in real life. I think I would have hired in real time, but no, probably in real life is better. What am I questioning them for? Those guys, I mean, Tim Pool has got his shit together. I'm more impressed with that guy all the time. They talk about the same thing. They get into the philosophical side of it. The last time I was watching, and they were saying, well, what do we do when the Democrats are for evil and all the Republicans go along with evil? What do we do? And they're talking about the Speaker of the House getting ousted, which he certainly deserved. And I'll say this, where the hell was Lauren Boebert? Lauren Boebert, you should have voted. You should have been with the 8 Republicans. You know, the 8 that are being, I guess people, maybe they're trying to frame them and talk about them in a bad light, but they did the right thing. No, the Speaker, McCarthy, was just doing the same bullshit that they all do, being part of the Uniparty. So we're going to go this way. We'll end this video up here at my main rest stop here on County Road 11A. McCarthy should not have been a Uniparty guy. Apparently he's all butthurt about getting his ass kicked out, but he should have been kicked out, and he should know better. Unless he's just incredibly stupid, or he's so in the tank for the Uniparty, and he's so against his own constituents that he doesn't have his, he doesn't have the full use of his logic right now, his reasoning. I think he's just bought off like the rest of them. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, what's going on with her? Why didn't she vote to get rid of the Speaker? I have got questions about that. I'd sure like to know why the hell they didn't, because I would have expected. They're talking the talk, but they didn't walk the walk this time. It's to me like a track hoe or a bulldozer or a tractor been up this road. I'd like to see a maintainer get on this road one time. Well, maybe it doesn't matter. This is the worst part of this road right here. By the way, I made a comment. I was up in Medicine Bow last week filming that beautiful fall. And I made a comment. I was talking about my window being broke. I hit a cattle guard here in this area. And I was trying to guess how far away that cattle guard was from where I was at. Just thinking about the position of things and, I'm not looking at a map or anything. And I said last week, so this is on tape, that I have roughly 60 miles, roughly southeast of here, was the cattle guard that I hit that broke the windshield that I had to replace this year. that I have since got a big giant crack in. Actually, a big star in that. It looks like that so far, knocking carefully on something that's not wood. It hasn't, it looks good. It hasn't spread. So this evil cattle guard is coming up. I'll point it out when it gets there. I estimated that we were about 60 miles northwest of that cattle guard that I hit. And I was wondering how far off I was. And so this morning before I left, I had a second. Oh boy, beautiful cabin here. I would swing around to show it to you, but I'll wait. I'm actually kind of in. I've got a bit of an appointment I need to meet today. What we got? About an hour, yeah. About an hour away. So anyway, I'll try to make my appointment today. This is the cattle guard right here. I hit this cattle guard hard, and it was worse than it is now, quite a bit worse, because the road was just as is. It hadn't been plowed or anything. And when I hit it, it cracked that windshield. So when I measured it, just to see how close my guess was and how far off it was, I was 58 and a half miles. That was how far it was from that spot. That was shocking to me. I mean, I was super accurate. And it's cool. I mean, it was neat that it was. I was just, so yeah. So my sense of distance around here, well, I got lucky, or it's better than I thought. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and stop here. Well, good then. I'm a little late for my appointment today. I think we're going to be fine. But I think we're good. I just can't, I couldn't get out much earlier, you know, I mean, the way that everything works today. I was only like maybe 15 minutes later than what I wanted to be. No. So anyway, to get back to that point, all of the Republicans should have voted McCarthy out. The Republicans that didn't, and weirdly enough, Ken Buck even voted him out. I mean, I was shocked by that because I have been underwhelmed by Ken Buck, but maybe I'm wrong. Ken Buck's a Colorado congressman. Right? Well, we'll see. This white brush that used to be bright yellow is rabbit brush. Stuff that got that white shimmery look to it on either side of the road. Anyway, we are getting ready to make a real quick stop here. This is my bathroom stop. Not that I really need to stop today, but I will. And I do make it a point to get out, kind of stretch my legs just a little bit. I don't spend a lot of time doing it, but I try to keep somewhat limber. I think that's helpful. I will say this, since I have changed over to a keto type of a diet, I am not nearly as stiff as I used to be. Well, that's pretty impressive. Well, that's interesting. It looks like that's coming off north of Spicer Peak. Spicer Peak is the hill, the mountain that we're looking at. Basically, that little volcanic nipple up there is Spicer Peak. And that fire looks like it's just on the southeast side of Spicer Peak. All right, y'all. This is where we part company for the morning. But I will leave you with a view of Spicer Peak, because Spicer Peak is very pretty. Back up. Try to get it centered here. There we go. Okay, there you go. Good view. So if you're going somewhere today, of course, drive careful. I will too.